motion. Is the motion be agreed to? Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to thank Ms Cody for bringing this motion to the Assembly today. I'll start off by saying, how about those Capitals? I know Minister Berry shares my enthusiasm for the women's basketball. They've won several games in a row. They've had the WNBL Player of the Week for the past 2 weeks in Kia Nurse and Kelsey Griffin, so they're going pretty well so far this season. We've also seen some fabulous AFL women's in the capital, which I've enjoyed as well. And I just at this point like to give a quick shout out to the UC Women's Rugby Sevens team from the University of Canberra, who've participated in the second Australian Women's Sevens tournament, a tournament that took them right across Australia to compete against other women's universities team. And they came 6th overall after 5 rounds. And I guess perhaps most excitingly, Captain Sammy Wood has been selected as part of the extended Australian Wallaroos team for 2018. So we've seen some great strides forward in women's sport, especially at the elite level over the past few years. It doesn't mean there isn't still much to be done. But the motion that we have before us today is, as I guess we've become used to here, a bit of self-congratulation of the government of what they're already doing, which is, I guess, fair enough, but also trying to claim the achievements of others as their own. And it's something that we've become a bit used to here. And in section 3, of course, it's the usual criticism, if you like, of the community contribution schemes, another barely disguised attack on the clubs and their community contribution scheme, asking that the government investigate ways to increase the share of funding that goes to female sport. Once again, it's the government criticising community clubs and the invaluable support they provide to sport and recreation, but not surprising from this government. Despite the clear messages they've received from the community to leave the scheme alone, here we are once again. So we all know we've grown up with sport. It's always been a key part of Australian life. It shapes our sense of identity, it strengthens our reputation as a nation, and of course at the grassroots and local level, it's the glue that binds many communities together. We enjoy the social and health benefits of participating in sport. And research shows that for every dollar spent on sport, we save $7 as taxpayers in terms of spend on health. Being active not only makes community sense, it makes economic sense. But we are watching more sport than ever, and fewer Australians are playing sport and engaging in physical activity, and this is a trend that we need to reverse. Over 17 million Australians aged 15 or over, or 87%, participated in a sport or physical activity over the last 12 months. Nearly 3.2 million children participated in some form of organised sport or physical activity outside of school hours. In Canberra, as of April 2018, there were some slight differences across ages, employment status and education background about the participation of males and females. And there are some areas where there is a higher participation for women, including where participants have a disability, within the age brackets 35 to 45 and 65 plus, when living in an adult share house or as a single adult or couple with no children. And for women, their employment status is also affects their level of participation. For example, if women work part-time or casually, they tend to have higher levels of participation in sport. Sport is by its nature very inclusive. It's one of the many great things about it. And local clubs want people to get involved no matter what their skill level, their gender, their socio-economic status, education background, disabilities, access to transport or equipment. These factors present challenges for everyone, but the volunteers, coaches and parents work to find ways to overcome those barriers. So what the government can do here is make a contribution to make sport more affordable, accessible and attractive. So too with youth participation and increasing how active our kids are throughout their school years. This is where the policy levers of government can be focused to support programs making a difference. The government talking about investigating ways to increase the allocation of the community contribution scheme to female sport can come across as a bit of an insult to those involved in the community contribution scheme. The 2015 KPMG National Club Census found the social contribution of ACT clubs to be a massive $39 million, including direct community donations, subsidised access to facilities and volunteering. But Madam Speaker, already our clubs are supporting women's sports. If we look at women's sport contribution from Canberra clubs, we can look no further than the contribution from clubs such as the Ruck in Turner, who support women's sporting clubs in the inner north of Canberra, for example, Owls Women's Rugby, University of Canberra Hockey, ANU Women's Hockey, ANU Women's Soccer, ANU Touch Rugby, Inner North Netball and CNBC Women's Lawn Bowls. I also mention, Madam Speaker, the Tuggeranong Vikings, who are great supporters of women's sport in the Tuggeranong area, such as the Tuggeranong Valley Women's Cricket, Southern Canberra Gymnastics, Tuggeranong Vikings Hockey, the Pines Tennis Club, Vikings Water Polo and Vikings Rugby, who won the women's rugby competition in Canberra this year. Ms Cody's motion refers to helping develop female change facilities and highlights the government's contribution to this space. For example, $8,400 to one club, Capital Football Change Rooms at Hawker in 2018. Doesn't actually appear to be a massive commitment, but I do understand and agree that the lack of suitable changing facilities can be a barrier or a deterrent to girls and women participating in sport, and it is something that needs to be addressed. We can look, for example, at other jurisdictions of what they're doing to encourage women in sport. New South Wales has a women in sport strategy targeted at increasing leadership roles for women in sporting associations and organisations. Queensland has a program called Get in the Game, with a specific grant program for female facilities, not just new facilities, but retrofitting older facilities and upgrading club rooms and change rooms where needed. They also have a program called Get Out, Get Active, to target women who are currently not involved in sport and recreation and to make activities affordable. Western Australia has programs focused on scholarships to provide pathways and leadership development programs to build capability and promote female talent. Victoria has established an office for women in sport and recreation, with again a focus on leadership with increasing board representation and leadership roles, as well as accessing use of public resources, female-friendly facilities and issues around body image. Women's sport is the fastest growing area for many codes. Big name sponsors are starting to come on board and media networks are also recognising the growing interest in these games. These changes are happening, but they are slow. We do need to see greater equality in women's sport, in the payment of athletes, in sponsorship, and we can look to some of our female athletes from Australia who've dominated the world stage with the Diamonds, the Opals, the Gillaroos, the Matildas, the Hockeyroos, the Breakers, our Olympic Rugby Sevens. Despite their phenomenal success and some progress at the elite level, the funding, the money, the payment involved is not at the same rate of those of men. But at the local sport level, they need support and funding, better facilities and proper maintenance. They need help to take care of their athletes and their leadership team to the next level with clear pathways and development opportunities. We need support for kids to play sport, and if they excel at it, to travel interstate or overseas to compete and strive to join professional leagues. We need support to train at world-class venues and support to elevate female leadership across all codes and all sports. So we don't agree that there needs to be an intervention in the community contribution scheme. Stop with the big brother approach to private industry and telling business how to do their business, but look at ways you can provide tangible support to sports clubs, the way we can encourage more participation and recreation opportunities for all Canberrans, including or especially women. This is the way that we're moving towards equality. Sometimes it seems to be taking a very long time, and we would like to see the pace of change quicker. But a big brother approach or a big stick approach is not necessarily the best way to achieve this. We're opening up more opportunities for women all the time, and that's exactly as it should be. We need to ensure that people with an interest in a sport get the support they need, the infrastructure and facilities around them. This is already happening at the grassroots level, and I hope that the government will continue to enable clubs to allocate their community contributions, because in most cases clubs are providing almost as much. I don't think it is absolutely equitable at this point, but I think they're providing almost as much for men's and women's sport. Despite the growing excitement around women's sport, only 2 women made the top 50 sports earners list in Australia. Largely that was due to sponsorship, not prize money or wages. And in the same way, female sport only receives 7% of Australian TV sports coverage and 9% of sports coverage on the news. This is one of those chicken and egg arguments about which comes first. We have the very common phrase, you can't be what you can't see, but I think many young girls and children can see the excellent sports models, whether it's in netball, basketball, football, or any other of our myriad of sporting codes. They can see the examples out there. We just need to encourage them, especially when they're becoming young women and they have body image and other questions about whether they wish to continue in sport. These are some of the very tangible things that we can do to encourage young girls to continue on the sporting path and take advantage of their natural talent and their hard work and training to become the very best sports person they can be, whether that is an elite sports person or playing at the community level, because everyone has a different aspiration and different goals about their participation.